Thanks for taking the time to join. I was sharing with Nejc and Clement. I feel irrationally excited about this event. Uh, I can't wait to get into the content here today, and it's great to have everybody join. Nejc, are you ready to get started? Should we kick it off? Yeah.
Let's start.
All right. Sounds great. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the AIRops HUG, the first HubSpot user group focused on AI for revenue operations. For anyone I haven't had a chance to meet yet, I'm Brian Garvey, CEO at Profoundly. I'm joined today by Nejc Škoberne, CEO at Sellestial, and Clement Horvat, CRO at Sellestial. The AIRops HUG is going to be hosted by us on a biweekly basis where we focus on practical sessions and workshops every 2 weeks, each focused on a single topic related to AI for revenue operations, which I know we're all really interested in. Today's session is Claude and HubSpot, how to get them connected, how to actually use them together, where the limitations are, and then how to go beyond those limitations. Today's session is hosted by Nejc. He has a PhD in computer science, has been building production AI for years, since like 2022, spent 13 years in B2B, and he's on his third successful company. We're going to run about 25 minutes, then we're going to open it up for Q&A. So if you have questions, please write them down. We've left a ton of time at the end to dive deep together and get everything answered. All right, Nejc, over to you.
Hey everyone, great to meet you. So you've got Claude and you've got HubSpot. Now, how do you connect these two and how do you get most out of them? Um, we're going to be talking about MCP and API and a lot of different things, but let's just get started. So you'll need a Claude plan, a paid one. A free plan doesn't let you use the connectors. Um, you'll need a HubSpot portal with the right set of permissions. I'll speak about that in a minute. And you need an awareness of what you're actually doing when you're connecting your Claude via MCP, via a connector to HubSpot. Since recently, Claude can also write and update records in HubSpot. So it's very important to just keep that in mind when you are working with it and when you're deciding if you're letting it um, all the permissions that it asks of you. All right. So in order to set this up, you need a certain set of permissions. So on the HubSpot side, you need to set up the HubSpot connector for Claude. Now, this may be already installed by your HubSpot admin, and you may be already granted access to it. But if not, then you need to have HubSpot super admin or app marketplace permissions yourself to connect this connector to HubSpot. Or you can ask somebody to do it for you with the right permissions. On the Claude side, um, you can either have an individual subscription, the Pro or Max, or if you have a team or enterprise subscription, then your Claude organization owner needs to allow the HubSpot connector in Claude. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to connect to HubSpot. All right. So this is in terms of what you need permissions wise. How do you install the connector? Um, these are the bullets, but I'm actually just going to walk you through it. So you first open your Claude uh, desktop. You go to Customize and then connect your apps and then pick HubSpot here, search for HubSpot, click on the plus button, and then the authentication flow is going to open in the browser where you select the right portal you are connecting to. Then you review and select the permissions that you need in order to get the connector up and running, and you connect the app. And here in the HubSpot connector, page in Claude, you can now see the exact tools that you're getting access to, your Claude is getting access to in HubSpot. So you can see there are two groups, the read-only ones and the write-delete ones. For the read-only ones, you've got get objects, get properties, the user details, campaign analytics, and so forth. And the read-delete tool is basically just one, the manage CRM objects, which will be used to update and create records in HubSpot. You may see that there's no delete or archive or merge tool, and this is intentional. So as of today, you cannot perform any of these three actions yet using MCP in HubSpot. For that, you need an access to API directly. I'm also going to be talking about that a bit later. All right, so you probably are already familiar with the three harnesses in Claude. So a harness is a software that wraps an LLM, turning a text generator into some kind of a useful AI tool. So you've got these three modes of operations in Claude. The first one is chat. It's basically a conversation with some tools. And the capabilities are you can use it via web, mobile, or desktop. It can also use skills and MCPs, which means connectors. It can produce artifacts like simple pages or files. Um, and it also has some level of cross-chat memory, but it also has severe limitations. So the execution is really interactive, and you cannot run more complex, longer agentic workflows with it. It also doesn't have access to your file system. There's no terminal or anything like that, and you can also not do any scheduled runs with it. Um, the co-work is already much different. So this is already an agentic engine for knowledge work. So not so much for developing code and writing scripts and such, but for connecting multiple tools into a longer, more complex workflows. It only runs on desktop, but it supports scheduled runs. It can work with files within a folder that is accessible within a sandboxed virtual machine. It can spawn subagents, and it uses that folder as a project memory. Um, the limitations are the desktop might stay open. So if you close the the Claude desktop or your complete computer, the execution of the workflow stops. It doesn't have access to the rest of your computer, it just keeps within that small virtual machine. It also doesn't have any audit logs or compliance API, which the chat mode does have. And finally, we've got Claude Code, which you've probably already heard about. And this one is also an agentic engine, but more built for builders. And the capabilities are you can use it within a terminal, so it has access to your complete file system if you needed to. It can work with hooks and plugins, and also spawn sessions as routines in the cloud, like scheduled Claude Code sessions. And it's much more code oriented. So it's more built to write scripts and build serious automations. It has less user-friendly UI, especially when it comes to copying and pasting information. Sometimes you've got these then broken new lines and such. And also, finally, with great power comes great responsibility when it comes to code. So it's also the most risky part of Claude because you've got a lot of permissions, at least conceptually, that you need to manage. All right, so these are the three modes. And within the context of connecting Claude to HubSpot, here's a bit more about each of those. So for chat, you will use this when the output of your query is going to fit the chat window. So when you have a specific question and you expect a relatively to the point output, why is this deal at risk? So you've got a question, got to answer, make a decision. So every action is very interactive. So every action you're going to do is going to require your okay. So updating a stage, sending it out, approving something. Also, it has some level of audit trails if you need that. But yeah, it's mostly for real-time interactive work with an AI as a buddy um, on less complex workflows where typically just a single tool is used at a time. This is an example of running this particular one on our demo HubSpot instance. So here you just see, got a question, did an MCP query, and I've got this little report that was interpreted by Claude. So Cowork is already a bit more involved. So it's an agentic engine, as I said, but here you can already combine multiple apps, multiple integrations or MCPs. So the work will cross various apps. And you're going to you're going to want to use this when the output is not just some little write-up, but it may be a file that you will then work with down the road. That, when you actually need the whole directory available, you maybe need multiple files to work with. But still, when you close your laptop, the execution will pause. So you need to keep that in mind. When you have a longer, more complex, elaborate workflow requiring multiple apps, you can use Cowork. It still doesn't scale. When if you have like an operation on a workflow you want to run on thousands of contacts, it's not going to work. It's going to break. So this is why eventually you will need Claude Code. So this is an example of a Claude Cowork query. See here on the right side, you've got this task progress for longer tasks. You see also the files within the work folder here. And you see the context window, so the connectors and the skills that are part of this Cowork project. Also, you can see that there were several steps being executed within this workflow. So it's much more agentic than chat. All right, so the Claude code is meant especially for builders. So when you're starting to build like more serious, involved workflows or automations, and you need to do stuff that MCP or the connector just can't. If you have bulk deletes, custom scoring, schema work, stuff like that, if the operation or the workflow needs to be triggered by other things than people, scheduled or on Slack and stuff like that. For example, you can set up a Claude Code command that is being run by Slack by your team, which then opens, spawns processes in other tools, and so forth. And also using web, so Claude Code web and routines, you can spawn Claude Code sessions without you there. So in Anthropic's Claude Code cloud infrastructure. We'll have another example for Claude Code a bit later. So, but where does it stop with the MCP? So what are the limitations of using the Claude HubSpot connector? So this is the list of the walls that you may hit at some point. So the first one is when you need deletes and merges, as I said earlier. You will not be able to do that via the connector. Second is that if you want to use custom objects, you will need something else. You'll need to go via API. Same for schema and properties management. So you can search and read property definitions, but you cannot create or edit them. If you have any sensitive data on the portals, those are blocked. And if you want to do reliable bulk work, so the searches and the gets are capped here on MCP. So this is not for mass imports, updates, and cleanups. For this, you will need to set up HubSpot API access. Again, this is where the great power comes with great responsibility. When of course, you can manage the scopes, allowed scopes in HubSpot, but it's quite easy to just add a lot of scopes, and then suddenly you give your Claude a lot of permissions. Um, you need to create a service key in HubSpot. Uh, this is a key then you store in a specific file in your Claude Code project directory called .env. You can also add that file to gitignore if you're using Git to manage the project folder. And then when you want your Claude Code to do stuff with the API, you just mention it, right? For example, this is an example of a prompt that you can only do with Claude Code with API access. If you just have the Claude HubSpot connector, so MCP, this is not going to work. Here's the prompt. So help me clean up duplicate records, duplicate contacts in HubSpot. For each dupe pair, keep whichever has the most deals. If tied, go by activities, then the most recent. Put a plan in merge plan CSV for me to sign off, and then merge them via the API and keep a log of what got merged. So
I have a
this
question
is
on this, if I may.
absolutely.
So I wanted to utilize, and I did exactly did with the service key, with Cloud Code, and my use case was that the client created a deal for everything, but a lot of them were not qualified, right? So I said, okay, well, here's band
Sure.
criteria, check on XYZ, then give it a score on each one of them, and then give me a suggested action in a spreadsheet. But what I saw is that if I create a custom assistant through HubSpot and I on the deal give it the exact same prompt, it would
Mhm.
gather way deeper. It would actually look at the meeting transcripts, the call script.
Yep.
And I think Claude didn't do that and just had limited information, thus giving me less good results basically. Is that expected or a limitation?
No. What would need to be done there is describe the process in more detail. So with Claude Code, this is a very simple, straightforward prompt, right? So in reality, what you would do is you would write a skill. Basically, you would describe the SOP, the whole process, in a much more detail for Claude Code to then execute that process in a predictable, deterministic way every
Mm-hmm.
time it's being run. So the level of detail is completely optional. So you can, do it in a very detailed way, or as you can see it here. But if you don't specify all the details, then first it will be done inconsistently through, each run. So it's very important to take some time to describe the process as you would do it as a human, basically, and describe it as an SOP for Claude Code as a skill.
Okay, but it has theoretically access to the exact same like
Absolutely.
descriptions and stuff.
Well, some we don't have yet perfect parity of the HubSpot API with the user interface. So there are still some actions that you will be only able to do using the HubSpot web app interface that you're not able to do via API. But as we've heard from Dharmesh just recently, we are hopefully getting that parity soon. And that will be amazing because I do imagine APIs are becoming more and more important these days with all this AI going on.
Definitely.
All
Okay,
right,
thank you.
so sure. So why this needs an API? Again, audit trail. So the code that the Claude Code produces will control the log file, the candidates, every rank reason, and in my format. Um, this is they're going to require a bulk operation. So yeah, you can do it within, as I said earlier, if you have dozens of the objects, MCP is okay, but for hundreds or thousands, you will need to do it with Claude Code as a script. Also, when you need to do some custom logic on the data that is being pulled from HubSpot, some reasoning that you want to do the same in the same way every time, for example, ranking by deals, activities, recency, that's not a tool. So you need to write that as a process. So this is why you need Claude Code. And also, as I said, no merges, no updates, no archives and no deletes with MCP. So you need to set up the API. All right, so that's it for today. 20 minutes are over. Please ask any questions that you came up with during the session.
I have one, if I
Sure.
may. I'm using the Claude Code, and I'm using it, as a partner. It's super helpful for those ongoing boring tasks that we don't want to do.
Yeah.
So I'm using the terminal as, to run the script.
Yes.
Is there a better option? I mean, is there a reason not to use the terminal as opposed to other methods?
So depends on how interactive do you want your work to be, right? So if you want to have this back and forth kind of way of doing things, then running things in terminal or even in the Claude desktop app is perfectly okay. But if you would like to have a more autonomous automation, then it's better to define a task or a workflow as a skill or a plugin, and then just execute that as a terminal command, but not, basically a single command, and then it just runs.
I do it, but the problem is that,
Yeah.
as you presented in some of the cases, some of the things, for example, if I want to run an audit, so a simple and I build skills, okay? I'm building a skill, and the skill is being I'm doing that on the terminal, okay? And then I'm finding myself working with both the terminal and the Claude, the Explorer, like this. Not so comfortable.
Okay. So if you don't want to use the terminal, you also have now Claude Code in Claude Desktop, in more like a UI version of Claude Code, if that's more comfortable. But you can use both.
Okay.
I mean, the really annoying part of using Claude Code in the terminal, I think, is that you can't really nicely copy paste from it.
Exactly.
Yes. So for that, you should definitely try the Claude Code in Claude Desktop app.
Okay. I think I did, but something there, I don't know. Okay, I will, but thank you anyways.
Sure.
Tony?
More
Thank
questions?
Hey, Tony.
Yeah. Hey, Nick, I got a question around co-work. I built my COS on the desktop folder. It's actually in iCloud, but the desktop folder where all my markdown files are, and the brain. And I'm using Claude Code basically on a daily basis. But I'm not, now it's built, I'm not using its power. I don't really need it. Can I use the COS files through Claude Co-work as well, so that it's a more appropriate kind of, does it matter? Is the question.
What do you mean by CMS files?
So sorry, buddy. COS it stands for Chief of Staff. I've got my Chief of Staff brain. Sorry, it's built in a folder that lives on the desktop, which has got all the MD files, got all of the all the skills are in there, context, people, task lists, strategy, the whole thing, right? So that's all in there, built by code.
Okay.
And I use code then on a daily basis to run my various analysis, to look at my teamwork, MCP, my Google Drive, all the things, right? So it's the center. But I'm not coding in effect. I'm just using it now that it's built. Would it be more efficient to do that in co-work? And in fact, can I connect co-work in the same way as I can connect Claude Code to that brain?
You could. there is a limitation of Claude Cowork, which is the context management is a bit, let's say, inefficient. So what can happen, it happened to me often, is when I was running like a more elaborate, longer workflows, it's just the context window gets filled up and then you're done. So I would say like if there's not a good reason to not use Claude Code and use Cowork instead, I wouldn't bother, especially because you can use Claude Code now also in Claude Desktop tool. What I think is really important in such projects is that because what happens very quickly is you build something with Claude Code and then you add a file and a folder, another file, and then it becomes a bunch of stuff. Is to ensure that whenever a certain process that you're executing within that environment actually always gets to the same to the context that you believe it needs to actually perform the task. So what's really important is to curate in Claude Code, to curate the Claude.md on the higher level, and then reference other MD files if needed in order to really have always the deterministic context that Claude needs to execute on the task.
Yeah, good tip. Brilliant. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Tony. Okay, any other question? I see a lot of questions here.
Nejc, we have 2 more raised hands. Renan, you want to go first?
Sure.
Yeah. First of all, good morning. I have questions. The first one is about the cloud service of Anthropic you mentioned. Can you go a little bit deeper in that point? Because I really got interested and you just jumped quick, really quick.
So what is the specific question?
How does it work? Because my second question is attached to this, because you mentioned that Claude Code has some limitations, and I do know it, but you mentioned that it's possible to use the APIs with Claude Code and not only MCPs. And this is a pain that I have, because I can't use APIs with my Claude Code. I built a customized MCP to work with my needs, but I don't know how to use the API that you mentioned. How can I use APIs with my Claude Code and not only MCPs?
Okay, so basically you just turn off first the MCP. So disable the MCP integration, the connector to HubSpot, because then if you don't do that, then your Claude Code is going to always need to make a decision. Does it use the MCP or API for a specific task? The second thing is, as I said, you need to create a service key in HubSpot. You save it in the right place into the project folder for Claude Code. Now, what is still sometimes a bit clunky is Claude understanding completely the HubSpot API. So what I do sometimes when I need a high robust system, then I would basically download the most recent HubSpot API specification and put it into the folder and put it into the Claude MD that, in this file, we've got the whole HubSpot API spec. This will help navigate the API for Claude easier and more reliable. And then it's just, whatever process you want to do and define. And is it a one time? Is it something that you're going to run more times? But this is how you do it.
So, okay, you give Claude the endpoints, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. And my second question, that actually is my first one, is what is this cloud service you mentioned about Anthropic? Because what my scenario today is I host my Claude Code and I ask my Claude Code to manage my HubSpot, but I'd like to offer it to my team. And a question, an issue that I have is where do I host it? Because to host it in a VPS or another cloud service would be something that may.
That's a good question.
Security issues.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
and you mentioned native.
Yeah. So there's, I think now, two runtime environments you can use within Anthropic. So one is the Claude Code Web, which is, you go there, it's basically the Claude Code web version. The thing is, you need to, it works through repositories, managed like Git repositories, because it will check out the whole repository with all the dependencies, install those dependencies, and then it will execute whatever task you wanted to execute. So that's one way of doing it. Then you now have Claude Code routines, which is basically scheduled, the same thing, but in a scheduled way. Then you now have the, what's it called? If you go to the Anthropic console, you have like managed agents, something, which is a different kind of agents. It's not really like Claude Code agents. So you have to describe those agents in a particular way, but it's another type of Claude managed environment where you can actually perform automations in. Of course, you have other options. You can either, purchase a VPS somewhere. You can, get a Mac Mini in the office and just treat it as a virtual coworker there with you. That's actually not a bad idea, because if it's like an on-premise kind of company, then it remains within the security perimeter of the company. But yeah, so there's multiple options there.
Thank you.
Me here.
Hey, yeah. Just wanted to ask, currently using MCPs, and wanted to explore more of the API side of things. Uh, do you have any recommendations in terms of uh, study material, or is there some kind of uh, like something I can have a look at which helps me more in detail solve those issues? Because I'm struggling with APIs, I don't have a lot of idea on that side of things. So yeah.
Have you tried bootstrapping your knowledge with simply with Claude? I mean, that's how I would do it. I would basically just tell it what is my level of understanding and expertise, and say, look, I need to achieve this, and this is what I want. And then you basically start explaining how you see it right now, and then it will, correct your understanding of how things work and help you build on top of that. What I think is
I
really
did try that. I did
Okay.
try that. Sorry to break you off. I did try that, but I wasn't very successful, and I just need it with the context of using HubSpot in a better way, because I don't want to use a lot of other things, just with the context of HubSpot. So I was hoping that in case you have any idea of someone's put out something over there, just with respect to that.
Yeah. So I don't really have like a good resource to give it to you or something. What I would start with is, as I said earlier, I would download the Open API spec of the HubSpot API, put it into a project folder, and say, look, there's everything you need to know. Say to Claude, there's everything you need to know about HubSpot API, and describe in the utmost detail the workflow you want to do, and then ask it, so, okay, what else do you need from me to do this, to achieve this? And then hopefully it will tell you.
Got it. Thanks.
Sure. Hey, Sid.
Hi, thank you.
If I just may, if we don't lose, there's one question which was pretty up in the chat. I'll give you a word immediately. Charlotte was asking, how does the connector work better than simply connecting Claude to Google Chrome tabs? Charlotte, if you're still with us, if you can elaborate on the question, that would be great.
Maybe, yeah, if you can rephrase it, that would be great.
Yeah, sorry. So I just I think I've connected I'm really new to all of it, but I think I've connected my Claude. I'm on the pro level one, just to the Google Chrome tabs. So whatever tab I'm working in, or a group of tabs, it'll help me out with that. So if I've got HubSpot open on those tabs, how is that enough, or is there more I can do if I've got the actual connector there?
So the Claude Chrome extension is especially useful when you want to automate the work that you do within the HubSpot web interface. So if you would basically want to automate the clicking that you do on HubSpot, that's what you would use. Basically, connect your Claude to Chrome, and then Claude drives Chrome actions for you. That's what you would do with the Claude in Chrome extension. Is that anything different that you would like to achieve? What do you would like to achieve?
Now, this is a bit. I'm actually coming at it from the other side. I'm going. I haven't got specific use cases.
Okay.
I'm trying to go actually what can I achieve? I'm a little bit I don't know what I don't know at the minute.
Got it. So to clarify, the extension, the Chrome's extension for Claude, is meant to let Claude operate your Chrome, to read the website, to perform actions on it, and so forth. It's actually very useful when you are not when the HubSpot API versus UI parity is something that you're missing, right? So, for example, you've got a workflow that requires some actions that are not available to do via API, and you just need to do them via interface. Now, the caveat there is that in HubSpot's terms and conditions, you are not allowed to do that. So HubSpot actually doesn't officially let you drive their interface with AI. It's actually a human that needs to be clicking those buttons. At least that's in their terms and conditions, the last time I checked it.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Hey, Ivor. Oh, sorry, Sid.
Thank you. So actually, I do have two questions, and mostly all my projects since last 5 years, I work in the finance industry. So I do a lot of things with CMS, CRMs both. So I started using Claude since last few months. What I noticed in terms of CMS, so I have that two question. So if you could suggest me what is the recommended workflow for using Claude Code with the HubSpot MCP server for CMS theme development? I mean, can it scaffold modules, fields.json file for the theme, of course, and Hubble templates directly against a connected portal, like for a specific portal? Like it could be a sandbox and it could be a production. Also attaching to this, I have my second question. Does the HubSpot MCP server expose design manager APIs, or is it primarily CRM focused? Or I mean, can Claude Code read, write themes files in modules, HTML or Hubble, whatever we have? So yeah.
I think, and I'm going to have to disappoint you a bit. I'm not a great, knowledge in the CMS stuff in HubSpot. So, but I would say that the MCP has a lot of limitations when it comes to that part of HubSpot. So I would definitely go and use the API methods that are available to manage that. I actually don't know what exactly is available on the API for the CMS stuff. I think you'll need to look that up, but that's how I would approach it. But I've heard that a lot of people are now vibe coding their CMS with Claude, so I would assume the API covers a lot.
Also, I seen one issue when I'm using Claude Code in VS Code, and when I'm using Claude Code in desktop. I mean, a desktop giving me more accurate answer, low context, and I mean low token uses in desktop versus in VS Code. VS Code gives me more errors as well. Do you know why it could happen?
So there's a lot of moving parts there. So first, which mode within Claude Desktop are you using? Co-work or code?
Co-work.
Code? Co-work.
Yeah, co-work. I
Okay.
use both. I use the Claude CLI as well, and I use the GUI one as
Okay.
well. The
And then
extension
the
one.
the other side is the VS Code. It really depends on what model are you using there, right? How that context is being managed. That is the like the quality of the response typically much more depends on how the context is managed than the model that is being used. So I don't know your specific flavor of VS Code. Probably it's vanilla, but how exactly the context is being managed there. But I would say that this is exactly when you're trying to do something with HubSpot API, you download the API spec, put it like the whole spec into the context window, either via MD file, Claude MD, or in some way, because if Claude doesn't know that, it will not produce an accurate result.
Actually, that's what I do when I'm in VS
Okay.
Code. I will always give a reference to the developer, HubSpot developer, and that's also, yeah, I agree on that. It also reduce the errors, but yeah, I think it may be
In terms
related
of
to the context as well.
in terms of token use, I don't have a good answer
Yeah.
there. I just use my subscription most of the time for most things, which has a lot of token spent built in. So I would definitely encourage everyone to use their subscriptions tokens as much as possible, because those are quite cheaper than using Claude API, at least today still. Probably not for much longer at some point, but we definitely should make use of that. Thanks, Sid.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Ivor.
Hey, Nate. Greetings from Zagreb to everyone. Question maybe more general than the technical integration, because I think I really got it. It's quite simple to either integrate with MCP or either to put in an API. But what you work with a lot of clients. What does your client say, let's say, when you propose that they have a full flexibility and opportunity to integrate something like this, and when it comes to security risks and compliance?
Well, depends where they're from. So
Let's say EU based.
yeah, European clients are more sophisticated, let's say. That's a good euphemism. When it comes to privacy and security, what we see is that if it's a client that is typically okay with GDPR friendly cloud providers, then Claude actually provides this European way of doing things via their Bedrock AWS platform. So basically, you can ensure that whatever data is being processed by Claude for European clients, it's being processed within the European Union. So that's what we do for some clients when it comes to AI. Some other clients are even not okay with that. So at the end of the day, we just tell them, look, you're using HubSpot, right? HubSpot is a cloud solution. So if you're trusting your data to be there, then you should also trust another European cloud provider to process your data with AI. But in the end, that's their decision to make. So yeah, it's definitely more tricky, and it's easier to do business with the US companies regarding this.
Thanks very much.
Thanks.
Quick time
Hey,
check. We've got about 15 minutes left here.
All right. Brennan, another question.
Yeah, you mentioned that the API parity is coming and HubSpot has announced it. So I'd like to ask you about the effort we should put right now in building stuff with Claude instead of waiting for the agents and Breeze stuff, because I feel like Breeze is really moving fast, and I feel like the API parity evolution is in the same pace. So how I feel like the effort I put to find new ways to use Claude in HubSpot doesn't worth the time I should wait for Breeze. So I want to feel your
Yeah, that's a good question. So a few months ago, I've done a very in-depth audit of all the Breeze AI, like very in-depth. And what I realized is that um, at least if their engineering approach and their product design approach is not changing in terms of integrating better models very fast, then there will always be a significant lag between Breeze and whatever is state of the art on the foundational models. So I don't see that yet, like that change from HubSpot yet, where it would give me this trust that uh, I would get the intelligence layer done in HubSpot. Um, and I also think um, it's not the direction that any of the companies is being very successful at. I think more and more companies that actually are stores of records are going into the direction of enabling API parity so that other tools and harnesses and whatnot are then using these platforms. And it is, Dharmesh saying they're also going for API parity with the UI. I think that is a step into that direction, not into the direction of keeping Breeze up to date with all the foundational models, because it's very difficult, I think, for them to uh, keep everything enterprise and production and whatnot ready, because they just cannot test all those models at the rate that would be required to achieve the functionality that people expect. So I don't think it will happen anytime soon. I think we will have these Claudes and Coda 6s and all these platforms for quite longer. But thanks.
Thank you.
I'd love to hear in the chat. I posted a question about Breeze credits, and I'm just curious to get folks' input on that. Like if you're using them, if your clients are using them or not. We get a lot of questions about Breeze credits. It feels like there's a lot of fog around like how much they cost and what you can use them for and so on. Just curious if others are hearing that as well. Visitor intent.
Mm-hmm.
I feel the same way in the sense that a lot of clients are very there's a lot of fog. I think fog is the correct word. So and I would admit that I'm sometimes a little foggy in terms of how to explain it correctly. I had a client yesterday. They were considering the prospecting agent, and we were trying to figure out the amount of credits that they would need. And they want to use it, but everybody's just worried. Like I think in terms of like how marketing contacts, you would just upgrade your tier and there's nothing you can do about it. They're just worried is if for this month I need to use 10,000 credits and I purchase 10,000 credits, am I going to get locked in for that on a monthly basis?
Yeah.
So that is something I think they're a little unclear or unsure about. And I'm still trying to work through that. I've been using Claude to teach me how to explain that to my clients, honestly.
I think that's actually a huge problem, is that HubSpot, I think, is trying to make an unreasonably high margin on top of the AI reasoning, which I don't think is going to be the direction things are going, because as APIs and MCPs and these things develop, why would you pay somebody else on top of the reasoning you're already paying for the reasoning. So I don't see logic there. And also the problem is that you just don't have this guarantee that with improvements of the foundational models, that you're getting those improvements at any time, anytime soon, right? So you may get locked in older models for a very long time. And I think this is what has been happening for a long time in HubSpot. But yeah, so I'm not from HubSpot. I don't know how things will go. We'll see.
It might be useful. Like, I know a lot of folks, they have the credits. They're already being partitioned the credits. And so maybe what we can do, we don't have time now, but what we can do in a subsequent workshop is just to do a deep dive on how folks are using their allocated credits, like how to put pricing limits in to avoid, the risk that it sort of goes over and so on. We can dive deep on that. Sounds like a good future session. Maybe we can get someone from HubSpot to join too.
Yeah. Charlotte, another question?
Yeah, just following on from that, the credits conversation. I know, I think sometimes it feels like they make it deliberately difficult to understand how the credits are being used. Like you have to really search, and I use it, like Cassia said, I use it AI to try and figure out how they're using the credits. And it, like you said, it changes all the time. Like what uses credits and how much it uses for. I think they try to make it so it's more outcome based now. Like you'll only use credits outcome. And with the prospecting agent, especially, they've made it like I think they've added loads of stuff to make it more useful now. So when I've had a client that's currently trying to get on with it, but it's not really working, and it's like, oh, hang on, they've changed it again, and they've changed it again. So I've got to go back to the client again. But I've got clients, in terms of what clients are using credits for, I've got clients using the I think it's the data agent when they have like the smart properties, like so it'll fill it out like to let you know when it's like revenue increases that quarter and that type of thing. And the buying signals as well. Like if you've got certain real target companies and you just want to know when should I reach out to them, and that's getting tied into the prospecting agent. So the prospecting agent, these target companies something's happening with the buying signals, and then we'll find the contacts using Zoom Info and do all of this. It's getting there, but it's like it's trying to fit that in with what's happening in real time. The clients can get quite difficult. But yeah, I agree. Most of my clients will have loads of credits they just don't use because they're not sure where the best place to use them or how it's just too complex.
Thanks. Sid.
Yeah, hi Nejc. So yeah, this was a very good question that was raised regarding the credit usage. So as I worked in finance and some of the healthcare for the EU and US and Canada board, the issue is with that all my clients they never want to use this Breeze function for any of the portal that they have. Either it is a finance or healthcare due to the HIPAA, PHI, and the GDPR. I'm not sure. I was not able to properly communicate with them regarding the uses, but yeah, it's most related to them. The reason that I heard from them is that data issues or something like that, as healthcare has protected information of patients, and for generally the data is very much restricted. So even though all the portals of HubSpot are enterprise, so all the credits goes missing every month. So could you help me understand why these two particular industries, healthcare and finance, are never want to use Breeze? Do you have any idea? Because these are the two ones that mostly I come across who wants me to switch off any AI users at portal level always.
Probably Breeze, I actually don't have a good answer on this, but is Breeze HIPAA compliant? Maybe that's part of the reason. But Clement, do you have a good opinion on this? Or you,
I
Brian?
would say just because of the nature of the industries, they're always kind of late adopters. Our CTO worked at JP Morgan as a developer, and he said, JP Morgan is one of the biggest financial institutions, so they're fine being 10 years late for the party for any new technology, just because they need to have everything super bulletproof, and they rather wait for everything. They're aware they might be missing something because of the possibilities, but they're fine because they need to be tight on everything. And for the healthcare, I would say more on the data privacy side. I talk a lot with companies in life science industry, healthcare, pharma, as my background is in pharmacy. So I hear that, hey, we have NDAs with pharma companies. We're just not willing to give you access to our HubSpot. Us as someone who tried to help them. And I think that kind of populates the whole mindset in the industry that, hey, we have healthcare type of a data in our HubSpot, so we don't want to paste that or push that to anywhere else that is not necessarily needed.
I mean, is this fear real, or like it's just a fog of data privacy and all? Because they are like, whenever I talked about Breeze, their face just turned completely off, like they are getting fined for $1 million or something.
I think it's the safest play you can do.
I mean, it's the unknowns that are not known, right? So I mean, also we are getting a lot of security vulnerabilities now on the AI side,
Yeah.
right? With all these tools, and addition, like especially if you have Claude code projects, very quickly when you're building something, a lot of libraries are going to be included into the dependencies, and we are seeing almost on a daily basis how a lot of those dependencies have security vulnerabilities. So yeah, I think there's a lot of like grain truth to that it's wise for a very conservative industry to be slow on adopting these things. I do see now that Breeze does have HIPAA compliance option. It's just not out of the box, but there's a certain complexity associated with that, but it's possible to do it. Renan, you have another one.
Yeah, but if we
we can't hear you.
Yeah.
There's
you
I think your microphone is broken or something. We can't hear you.
Some of us can hear, some of us
I
can't.
can hear him.
But
okay.
what?
Yeah, I can hear him. Yeah.
It's mine.
We're just about at time. So Renan, I don't know, is it a quick one or?
No, just ask. I can chat with you, Nick, on the LinkedIn if you are okay with this, because it's a real simple question. Because I just want to know is there any way through API that we can manipulate Breeze tools with Claude?
Give me an example.
I feel like that one's probably going to take more than 60
Yes,
seconds.
yes.
I love it. It's a great question. Well, why don't we do this? Maybe we can connect on LinkedIn, and then we'll roll some of these topics over into future workshops, and we'll tie it off there for today. This was awesome, Nejc. Thank you so much for doing this. Lots of questions, and thanks everyone for joining and participating. This has been great.
Thanks. See you soon.